Hi, I'm Hugh Whitmore. Welcome to episode number 3 of Hugh Writes a Novel. I'm about 6 weeks into writing book number 4 in the Three Madelines series. And before I get started, I wanted to point something out. It's summer, it's July 3rd, and I'm wearing shorts and the weather's warm. It's kind of an interesting thing about writing because it's a thing you do that takes a lot of time. And you might get bogged down in that if you're an author. But also it's kind of a neat thing, a big piece of work that takes a long time, and you can look back and measure time based on what you were doing and where you were in your book. And I have a big picture window in my office, and I look out over this park-like area where kids in the neighborhood play, and it's really kind of fun to see the seasons change and think about where I was in a novel at a certain time of year. It's kind of a neat thing about writing and the time it takes. And speaking of that, well, 6 weeks in, where am I? Well, 2 weeks ago, I was at a month, and I have since then, 2 weeks, I've written about 15,800 words. So a little over 1,000 a day. That's pretty good for me. I'm just past halfway in the book, and I'm up to 30,600 words total, which is all of the chapters I've written and the notes for subsequent chapters. And I wrote in my almost 16,000 words, chapters 14 through 20 through 31. But I mentioned that I don't just measure progress by chapters. I measure progress by where I am in my plot points. And I was just getting to plot point number 5 in the last update. But now I'm through plot point 5 and 6, and I'm beginning 7. I have about 1,200 words in plot point 7. And to refresh, plot point 5 is when the main character gets to the new world. They're in their old world, and then there's a big change, and they come to the new world. And plot point number 5 I call Fun and Games in the New World. And plot points 5, 6, and 7 are probably the funnest parts of the book. Because plot point 5, the new world, everything's new and they're excited and the action's going up and everything's good. And you know, though, in the back of your mind that they're heading for a fall. But it's a lot of fun, and it's the biggest chunk of the book. Half of the book is taken up in total writing space in 5, 6, and 7, in case you didn't know that. And because the 1 through 4 builds up 5, 6, 7, and 5, 6, 7 build up 8, 9, 10, which are the end of the book where there's less. So this big chunk in the middle is the heart and the meat of the book and what you're really setting yourself up for. And in this last 2 weeks, I wanted to mention I got almost 16,000 words written, but life intervened quite a bit. I had some repairs that happened to my home, a water heater repair, 2 faucets that had to be replaced. I couldn't do that. Had to hire somebody. The garage door opener broke, and I had to hire a company for that. My wife needed a new car, and I had to help her with that. I had to do videos like this for YouTube. And my book came back. My last book that I wrote was a nonfiction title, and I had the last read through before it's going to full print now. So I'm responsible. You have to remember that in authoring. You may even have a contract with a publisher, or you're a self-publisher, but either way, you're responsible for every word that's in that book. And I know that for myself. And so I had to read through that. That last title took me almost a full day out of my work. And now I'm bringing these things up, not to make an excuse or not to go on about myself, but this is what you'll face as an author. You have to just keep going. Life gets in the way, and you have to discipline yourself to write every day. And I try to write 8 hours minimum within a day. If I don't have anything come up, and I'll write 10, 12 hours through the day. I write into the evening, and because I'm very dedicated to it. I'm very excited by my writing. I want to affect people's lives and make people very happy with my novels, and I want to change people's lives with my nonfiction works. And I hope that you feel the same way too when you get to it. So I got to about halfway, back to the story, sorry, and I was about 25,000 words right at plot point 6, which is the middle of the book. And so I was very happy with that because I'm trying to write a 50 to 55,000 word novel. And so it's good when you're a little short on your first draft through, because you might have to rewrite or add a chapter or a scene or extend things. So it's good to be a little short and give yourself some room. And it's better to be short because generally speaking, you tend to write long, especially as you move through into the later chapters. So be aware of that. So 5, 6, and 7, I'll repeat a little bit here. So in plot point number 5, Fun and Games in the New World, it's a big, long thing where you're getting your new characters in there and it's time to develop, and there are people who are going to be interesting or funny, or your antagonist isn't going to be funny, that person or that situation or whatever your antagonist is, because it can be a situation, it can be an entity like the government or the police or something. The antagonist gets developed and starts to knock a little bit off the shine of your plot point 5, and it's just a really great time developing the fun and the grabbing the reader and getting them excited, because at plot point number 6, which is the middle of the book, it's the false victory. Something happens that everything looks great, like nothing could go wrong in this novel, nothing could go wrong for our hero. And then you get to 7, plot point 7, which is everything starts to decline, the world of the main character falls apart. And so now the antagonist rises and slowly everything erodes and gets away, and our main character starts to wonder if life's worth living, and they can't figure out why everything's going wrong, or why they lost their love interest, or why the police are catching them if they're a crook, or why the crook's getting away if they're a cop, and everything is going down. And that's also a great fun time in your novel, because what it's leading up to is the character building for your main character, where they have the epiphany later, where they overcome the internal emotional problem they're having and then get back and become strong again in the end. So 5, 6, and 7 are the great point of the book and a great point of your novel writing, and reach you midpoint and then over the top, and now you're writing toward your ending. And I wanted to bring up something too that happens once you get past the middle of a long novel. Now, I'm writing novels for middle graders, so I try to stick to 55 or 60,000 words. My books 2 and 3 went a little longer than that. But if you're writing a novel for adults, you might be at 80,000 words, 70, 80, even 90,000. Some people write 100,000 word novels. And it gets to be a grind. You're very excited when you get your plot points and you get your 5 main things, plot, setting, characters, conflict, theme. You get that all together. You get some architecture. You get going. The ideas are pouring out. And then you get to that middle and you start to realize, wow, I've been at this 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it's taking you. Some people take a year to write a big novel, an adult novel. And you realize, wow, it's a grind. I got a long way to go. You might get tired. You might get the blues, You might even get down or depressed. And I want to encourage you that just renew, if that happens to you, renew the things that got you started in the beginning, which are your structure. Go back to your structure. Go back to your plot points. And just, if you're having trouble getting words on a page, and maybe you can't form a picture of a scene or something like that, just do research. Go to similar scenes on the internet, look at them, and then write little notes. And then from notes come sentences, and from sentences come paragraphs, and from paragraphs come scenes and chapters, and the rest of your book will get going. So live and breathe and live and die by your structure, because it frees you up then, once the structure's in place, to get your emotions into it and let that creativity flow, which is why you're a writer in the first place. Your thoughts, your ideas, your whole personage comes through in that creativity. And that's what I try to do. I get very emotional about my writing and my novels. And also in my nonfiction work, I try to put a good story in there for people. So love your structure, love your plot points, be excited, do your word counts to stay on your plot points, and get yourself through and create that work. And then as we go along here, we'll be starting pretty soon to talk about once I get past plot point number 7, I'll be starting to talk about how the novel wraps up at the end, and we'll get there and talk about that. So hang in there, keep writing, be proud of your novel, don't get bogged down, use your structure, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.